Happiness is not what you think it is. Happiness is something so much deeper than this narrative that we are all taught. And when you can actually learn what happiness is and how to get it, you will have a really abundant and magnificent life.
I want you to imagine what would actually happen if today was the day for you. Yes, you who is ultimately seeking that happiness. What would happen for you? Imagine, just imagine for a hot second, if you were to surrender to receiving the deeper truth that very few people talk about. What could that do for you?
Hey everybody, it's Bianca.
Welcome back, Evolvers. It's Emilia.
I want to get us all grounded with a question. And impulsively, you're going to want to say yes. And then you're going to question the question. And then I really want you to think about the answer that then comes up once you give it a couple seconds to settle in. The question that I want to ask all of you is, are you happy? I don't think we have a good definition of happiness. The number one statement that I get with clients when I say, what are your goals for therapy? I'm sure you can take a guess what it is. I just want to be happy and I want to be at peace. And my question in retort to that, or in response to that, is, what does happiness mean to you? And nobody can actually answer it. When I ask them, what does happiness feel like? What does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it smell like and taste like? They can't answer it. And I think the reason is because happiness is an illusion that we've all bought into. It's this narrative that we've clung to. It's this idea. It's this image that we all are chasing, but yet we have no idea what it actually is. And I think the reason for that is because happiness is not, there's no standard answer. Happiness is based on every single one of us individually. And therefore, we have to be able to understand what happiness means to us, and then what the barriers are that get in the way. So for every single one of you, before Emilia and I dive into what we're going to talk about, I want you all to actually think about what happiness means to you. Not the bullshit, not a big mansion and a Maserati and whatever other bullshit. Because actually studies show that that's not what people behind the scenes, when nobody's watching and when there's no source of judgment that could happen, say that they want out of life. Most people say they want more simplistic things, but because we think everybody else wants it, we say we want it too. So what does happiness look like for you? If you gave yourself permission to answer this truthfully, what would happiness look like for you? When you have that answer, unpause this episode, and now we are going to dive into what gets in the way of getting that. So in the last episode that we released, we were talking about the biggest ways that relationships are ruined, and Emilia alluded to something where she said, one of the biggest things that hurt relationships is the lack of internal safety that we feel within ourselves. When you are severely dysregulated and when your brain is in constant fight or flight, you cannot make good decisions and you cannot feel safe. What's happening there?
So I want to first share this to preface my direct answer to that. Last night, Alan and I So it was Friday night last night. And for my nucleus, which is essentially the one thing that would be so meaningful for the week within he and I's relationship, was a back, neck, and hand massage. And that was the one thing that I really, really was craving this week. And so we put it on the whiteboard. That's my nucleus. And so last night I had, taken a shower, and we have dinner cooking and whatnot. And we have picture like our home lights down low, essentially only red lights and low lighting and candles. And we have the fireplace going, and we have, beautiful acoustic, it's actually called Spa Lounge on Spotify, playing in the background, and just this beautiful evening. And I walk out of our master bedroom, and he's like all excited. He's like, I got the coconut oil. Like, we use coconut oil for massages like that. And I'm like, for what? And he's like, it's your nucleus. We're going to do your nucleus tonight. I'm like, yes. Oh, this is amazing. Right after a shower. So like, I'm in all my feels, feeling like really cared for. And just our home environment, our little fur babies around, they're like, yay, it's family time. Like, all so cute. And okay, so we're now kind of getting into the neck massage. And he's like, wow, babe, like your neck is super tense. And I'm like, yeah, my body stores the stress and the lack of safety that comes in from my central nervous system every single day in my tense shoulders, because I'm a fight type stress response. I'll fight to get better. My central nervous system, that's my go-to stress response. And so I carry a lot of tension in my neck and in my shoulder blades. And I know if I don't somatically release that, meaning get those massages in there, get that knuckles in there, then my body stores that. And so last night I had a moment when, after that beautiful massage that he gave, and the babies are sitting around, we're sitting on the yoga mats in front of our fireplace, and just between, the low lighting and the candle light and the music and the love and the safety, I was like, oh, man, I am so grateful that you and I, like, this is home for us. Can you imagine being out right now, peopling? And I giggled a little bit, because essentially what I was saying there is how safe and how fulfilled I feel, and how amazing this moment was. And that is, now I'm grateful for the fact that we have co-designed a life that is what our evenings look like. So when you ask the question, what is happening there? For most people, when we go into our days, we are just ping-ponging back and forth from one experience to the other, one meeting to the next, one person to the next conversation, to the phone binging, to the TikTok videos, to the whatever our attention is fleeing and fighting us or bringing us towards. We are in a constant reactivity mode. And that reactivity mode hijacks our limbic system. So the system that is within our central nervous system that is in charge of those lower limbic brain types. So like, for example, the amygdala, the little almond shape part of our brain that is in the back of our brain, that is so responsible for the fear response in our bodies. And when our attention is constantly diverted all around, because we don't necessarily cultivate the sense of calm from within, we're really just kind of pulled around wherever life pulls us. Our brain is essentially going from the higher level capacities of thinking and cognitive function of prefrontal and neocortex executive function thinking to emotional dysregulation, limbic system hijacking, where we're just constantly in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode. And sometimes we'll go from fawn mode in one meeting to freeze mode in another meeting. And so when we are in a constant state of adrenal fatigue, because our adrenaline's pumping, our cortisol is pumping throughout the day, sometimes we don't have brain breaks or body breaks. We're not getting up and stretching. We're not moving those hormones throughout our bodies that are essentially telling our bodies like, oh my God, stay on the treadmill, speed it up, right? That is just what a lot of people's lives look like, and mine in the past as well. And sometimes even in the day-to-day, if we're not taking a moment to really reconnect our higher cortical thinking brains, i.e. our executive function components of our brain, right? Like up here in this general region, and connecting it to the brain stem and the parts of our body that help our body feel safe and calm, our body will store all of those chemicals or hormones in our fascia, in our tendons, in our skin, in our cells. And that's why when we get done from a day, maybe of sitting and doing what we're doing, we feel tension, right, in our shoulder blades. And so I shared what I shared at the very beginning of answering this, because what is happening in that, the large majority of us will just say we seek happiness. But what's getting in the way of that is our inability to reconnect to what fulfillment feels like. And fulfillment feels like bringing your body, bringing your breath, and bringing your brain all in sync and all in a rhythmic pattern that allows them to feel safe.
How many people do you actually think have ever sincerely felt that level of fulfillment, to where their nervous system is regulated, they're feeling connected with their body and their breath, and they're not experiencing stress in that moment?
Honestly, I'm starting to really, every single time I feel safe, to the point where I have to navigate the guilt that comes up by feeling that level of safety and fulfillment. I have to navigate through that. And what I mean by that is so few people, whether it be because of systemic issues that are at play, whether it be because of their circumstances, whether it be because of the education or the lack thereof, whatever it is, so few people actually do feel safe to that degree. And that's what is really disheartening when it comes to this happiness, because it's a byproduct. Our levels of desired happiness is a byproduct of how little we actually do feel safe in our own lives, in our own skin, in our own homes, in our own bodies, etc.
We're taught to externalize happiness. Happiness comes from where you go and what you do and who you're with and what you have. And anyone who says happiness comes within you, they're deemed as spiritual woo-woo out of this world. You don't know the way that the world really works. I think people have had glimmers and little moments of what you're talking about, but I don't think there's very many people who have that on a consistent, regular basis. Like, I'm thinking about someone in particular right now, and I know that she, with her partner, does have that. Like, he's the only safe space in her life. They adore each other. I'm so excited for them in their future. But outside of their little cocoon, it's all stress. It's all chaos. It's all mania, for lack of a better phrase. It's unsafe and it's dysregulated. She can't have that on her own. She doesn't have it on her own. She only has it with this partner because he's the only thing that makes her feel that way. That's dangerous.
Very dangerous.
That is so dangerous, because God forbid, what happens if they break up? Or what happens if he passes away or something happens? She doesn't have any skills to be able to get herself to be okay.
Hi, my name is Kayleigh Putnam. I just wanted to come on here and talk about my experience with the Evolve team. Every single day I learn new skills, not only my position, but also how to become the best and most aligned version of myself. I've learned through their support that I can achieve any goal I set my mind to, and anything that I want to happen will happen if I work hard enough. I've never met a group of more supportive and genuine people than at Evolve. Every single day, members check in on other members, asking if they're okay, what they can do to help, and it's such a caring environment. And I'm so grateful I got the opportunity to work with this team, because I feel like they've truly given me what I need to be successful in my future careers, and I'm so grateful for that.
When happiness is everything outside of you, what do you do? Where do you go? When you're alone by yourself at night, how do you navigate that? I think the other component of this, which I told you that I wanted to talk about, is this idea of consent. Now, I got to be very open and honest here. I don't know much about this, meaning to the degree that Emilia does and the way that she has framed this to me, I'd never heard this before. So I'm going to kind of pull from Emilia a little bit, but I do believe that the other aspect of happiness. So number one, it's the safety and the security and the groundedness that we feel within our own self that we then bring out into the world. Number two is then the relationships and the experiences, all types of relationships, all interpersonal relationships, because our life is a byproduct of the relationships that we have, all of them. So number one is our body and our self, and then number two is the relationships that we have. And specifically what we're talking about is this notion of consent within relationships that lead to your feelings of safety or unsafety. So you framed this to me in a way that I had never heard of before, and this is only really becoming a new thing. Can you give us a high-level explanation and description of what you're talking about when you're talking about consent?
I'm trying to go back to when I first shared that with you because it might have evolved since then. But when I speak about consent, I would say in the general way in which consent has come up in my world, and then I kind of plastered that over to what this dialogue is. Consent usually came up in the world of sex, right? That's the only really consent when it came to sex, consent when it came to control. Do I have consent, right? I'm kind of thinking totally outside of sex. When I was a kid, like we would have to sign consent forms or have our parents sign consent forms for us to be able to go on like, not
field
road
trips
trips, but
stuff.
Field trips. Yes, exactly. So like those are the two areas where consent was pretty much like brought into my world. And when we talk about this dialogue and perhaps the way in which I shared it with you was around when we are consenting in relationships, not necessarily talking at all about sex. It is strictly about showing up as our authentic self. We are consenting to have a degree of safety and or to collectively create a container of safety with one another that we are consenting explicitly. And there's multiple different kinds of consent, but we are explicitly consenting to one another to share a safe space and to be our authentic self and to prioritize authenticity of who you are in this moment over my desire and my need to be liked, my desire of attachment and being friends and being a part of each other's lives. And so when it comes to this whole dialogue, like a memory came up for me. And I want to share that because I think it's very in line with what we're talking about. When I was younger, I used to do dance. I don't think I've ever told you this story, but I used to do dance. Okay. And there was a song that we used to dance to, and I'm pretty sure we have like home videos of this, but picture like, those like popsicle sticks, and then you can attach like a plate to it, like those cute little baby crafts that you used to do. And then okay. So picture a paper plate and draw like a smiling happy face, just two vertical lines and then one like face, like one smiley face, right? Now, then glue that that paper plate to a popsicle stick. That's what, when we did our dance, we each had a little handheld sign that essentially was a smiley face. And the song that we used to dance to, this was probably at like 7 years old, the lyrics went as such. I want to be happy, but I won't be happy till I make you happy too. And we would put that paper plate in front of our faces while we were dancing.
Oh, wow.
Now, at a 7-year-old, yeah, you and I at 30 years old can
Jesus.
understand the implications of that type of lyrics.
That's a great message to teach a child. Hey, fuck you and your feelings. I'll be happy when you're happy.
I won't be happy until I make you happy too. Whoa.
That's not toxic.
The amount of non-consent or dissent that happened in that song, I can now realize and see that there's a subconscious control and no consent happening there. But the underlying message of that song that we were dancing to when we were little was, I need to chase happiness, but happiness is only contingent upon when you smile back at me. And so here this home video is of me dancing, and as a little kid, so thinking I'm doing the best thing ever to make sure that I am chasing my parents' happiness as my own. So around consent, Alan and I, in this context, he and I had another conversation recently, and he's like, we were talking about something being, we were like, I feel like happy. And we both were like, ugh, kind of like shocking. Like, we don't feel happy. It's like, and we both agreed. We mutually gave explicit consent to have that word never really come up again in our household, to never really use that word in our household. Instead, go to something more explicit. It's actually fulfillment. I actually feel so content. I feel joyful. I feel expressed. And things like that was a mutual permission giving, a mutual agreement around consent. And what that did, the byproduct of what that did, and I'll end on this, is it allowed our central nervous systems to choose safety and what felt true for us over this likability cage of, I am going to only name the emotions that I feel so that you learn and understand what that kind of is, instead of actually naming exactly what safety in this household feels to me. So does that answer your question, B, and kind of add some context in the direction that you wanted? And if not, please go into what you really felt called to.
It did. I'm gonna kind of high level it. You have to start with the safety that you feel within yourself, because if you do not feel safe within yourself, meaning if you are not grounded, if you are not regulated, if you are not stabilized, if you don't have a solid foundation within you, you will not advocate for your needs with another person. Therefore, things are happening without your consent, even if it's not something abusive, even if it's not something destructive, even if, okay, let's say I don't like people coming over to my house, but I don't feel safe enough to say anything about it because I don't like the discomfort of that conversation. If someone just randomly showed up, like a friend of mine, that would be out of consent for me because I didn't want that. But because I don't feel safe enough within myself, I therefore didn't say anything. So I'm going against myself. I am violating myself by allowing this person to come over because I don't feel comfortable or safe enough to say something about it. It has to start within you. And I know a lot of people don't like hearing that. People fight against this notion so badly that you have to love yourself before you can love someone else or before you can have a healthy relationship, because we see so many people who are like happy and fulfilled and successful and whatever who didn't do the work on themselves. Why would you want to risk that? You don't know what's actually going on behind the scenes. And maybe that person has done work on themselves that you don't know of. But regardless, you have to be good within you first. It is the truth. We don't like it, but you kind of got to deal with it. If you want to sincerely, like really be happy, long-term happiness, not just like momentary blips of happiness, true happiness in your life, meaning your life feels like it's right for you. You feel like you belong in your life. You gotta take care of you first. You have to make sure that your needs are met, that you are grounded, that you are in a stable place, and then so that you can advocate for your needs, advocate for what you want, and have mutually consensual, amazing relationships. Because without that, happiness is impossible. And that is my closing statement.
Drop the mic, y'all. The biggest things that get in the way of your happiness, to what Bianca said. You are the solution. You are also the problem, right? And that's the thing. Like, we are the biggest thing that gets in the way of our own happiness. And again, because I've kind of nixed that word from my vocabulary, I'm nothing wrong with that word, but it is, if I can challenge our listeners to go a layer deeper. What's getting in the way of your wholehearted fulfillment? You know, I share this all the time, especially with my male clients who are in the boomer generation, because they're learning like the first tier of what emotions are, right? And they were never allowed to feel anything other than fine, right? So them
or
learning
angry.
what happened. Fine or angry, exactly. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Love it. Fine or angry, right? Oh my goodness, happiness for them might actually be what deep down is for them safety, peace, tranquility, fulfillment, right? But if we're just learning what happiness means in our central nervous system, we're also able to comprehend that more likely than not, some narrative, some thought, some idea, some part of us has gotten in the way and become the biggest barrier of that happiness, right? So happiness in action is far more than just a surface level approach, a process, a system. And so if you don't have someone in your corner to help you remove those barriers that get in the way of your own levels of fulfillment, content, joy, etc., make sure you get someone in your corner. That is so, so key. So my episode in closing suggestion is 386, the number one skill you need to learn to be happy.
340, finally putting an end to self-doubt. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We hope that in listening to this show, you feel empowered to be your most fulfilled, aligned, happy. I know Emilia doesn't like that word, but it's what we're talking about. Self. And we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.